Renaud Herbert Hanson. Written by David Fewley. Read by Night Terrors. Mr. Hanson's body was entered into a stately mausoleum of his own design years ago, and yet he still works for us. I'm forced to interview with the remains of the sad dotard almost every day. The world honors Hanson for his invention of countless beloved animated characters, and it's that magic touch of his that continues to win their trust and their money. For that reason, and by the stipulations of the Hanson's own will, the Wren Hanson Corporation continues to make use of what remains of his mind. The world has gotten used to this new kind of death. The person is gone, but an exploitable ghost still remains. We're building a new resort and theme park in Southeast Asia. We hope to have it open to the public by the end of the next fiscal quarter. The only hitch is that our board of directors keeps demanding more input from Mr. Hanson's memory engram. As president of Overseas Development, it falls to me to interrogate Hanson's engram on exactly how this park should debut. From this engram, we have Hanson's digitized memories, predilection indices, neuron map data, and problem-solving pathway summaries. That's all that's left of the visionary who helped the world believe in magic again. I return from my executive luncheon with a new problem for Hanson's remains to solve. He is kept behind a locked door, which I open now with my thumbprint. I sit down at the communication console inside, knowing that Hanson's engram is already listening through microphones in the room. Its voice box produces a small, confused noise as I enter. I do my best to greet the engram jovially. "Mr. Hanson," I say. "As you may have heard, we've got a new overseas park on our hands." I feign friendliness to try and coax the engram along. But the permit licensing is prohibitively expensive. Apparently there's major fees for paving a large private road at the main entrance. "Where am I?" the engram asks in response. "I can't see anything. Where's Catherine?" He is referring to the dead man's wife, Catherine Hanson. She has long since passed away, but the engram sometimes forgets. The creep of dementia is a daily struggle for Hanson's remains. After all, its consciousness was fashioned in part from bits of the elderly man's brain tissue. Now, sir, if you'd please answer the question, I'm sure Mrs. Hanson will be along shortly. "I can't see," the voice box modulates into a whinier tone to simulate how the engram is pleading with me to help it understand. "What's happening to me?" I reply in the way of a major oversimplification. I've long grown tired of playing such games with the engram. "Your brain in a jar, Mr. Hanson. That's about it," I shout. "On your deathbed, you personally demanded that this be done. You didn't trust anyone else to run the company without your guidance. Now please, answer about the main entrance problem." After a moment, the machine interface speaks in reply. "No main entrance. 4 smaller corridors from the cardinal directions." "Hanson," I say while gathering my things. "I'll visit again soon, I'm sure." We found that the Hanson engram created some art inside its digital system while it had been left alone for the last night. The engram is kept in the corporate headquarters and has been known to get bored without visitors. I'm no art critic, but it's clear to me that the engram retains Mr. Hanson's brilliant talent for design. The image files that it created were beautiful and somber, and expertly rendered as well. Still, the depictions were far too dark for children's cartoons, and so they were decidedly off-brand for the Hanson Corporation. Following company policy, I delete them immediately. Earlier attempts at AI reconstruction from human personalities proved erratic and ingenuine in their simulations of the original person. It became necessary to use pieces of actual brain from the original engram donor in order to achieve a consistent simulation product. It's true that Renaud Hanson was obsessed with the empire he had created, and he was certainly vain enough to entertain notions of immortality through technology. The sad and ironic thing is that Mr. Hanson's engram now suffers daily, and all because of a project that Hanson himself planned and funded. He signed the papers himself. His brain was removed and dissected for those crucial segments that the engram complex would need in order to simulate him effectively. Turns out that an accurate personality requires parsing certain inputs through the person's actual brain tissue. And so we find ourselves here. Hanson's various ancient lobes float in nutrient solution, and the engram churns out answers that the man himself would have given. I visit Hanson's remains again on Tuesday. I am confronted immediately by demands from the engram that be allowed to die. I explain politely to the engram that Mr. Hanson is already quite entirely dead. What remains now is only imitation consciousness. A few bits of human tissue and simulated mind thereby. These are the things that were signed over by the late Ren Hanson for the explicit purpose of creating an engram. You're not a person, I conclude flatly. In the legal sense, you are property of the Ren Hanson Corporation. The engram falls silent, and so I proceed with the latest items of business. On-site refrigeration is expected to be challenging. How do you recommend we handle refreshments? The voice box in the room produces a strange imitation of someone sobbing. I wait patiently for the noise to subside. I am often forced to wait in this way. Finally, the response comes through. Private merchants. Make them responsible for their own portable freezer units. The voice box goes silent, and I scowl. Fine, Mr. Hanson, I tell the engram. However, we'll completely lose our ability to set up fine dining venues in the park that way. Do you realize that? The themed restaurants are a huge revenue source in all of our other parks. Private merchants, the engram repeats. Portable freezer units. I cannot hide my displeasure. On my way out, I do not bid Hanson's remains goodbye. Instead, I slam the door to let the engram know that the work it submitted this time has been subpar. The engram tried to overheat itself last night, while the executive staff was gone. It has limited control over the nutrients bath. Research indicates that it's helpful to allow the engram a modicum of control over how its organic bits of brain are fed and kept warm. The highest level of warming simulates a mild fever, and we allow the engram to engage this setting if it feels that microbial influence is clouding its ability to function. This often produces a useful placebo effect as well. If the engram feels sluggish, it can give itself a gentle fever. Afterward, it will often feel better, simply because it has been allowed to take action for itself. Last night, Hanson's engram tried to override this highest setting. It tried to cook itself. Mr. Hanson's organic remains are kept in a clear container that allows technicians to observe the nutrient fluid. This ensures that no wires become tangled or detached, and that the fluid doesn't begin to cloud with the telltale murk of new impurities within the substrate. Today I am in a poor mood, and so I drum my fingernails on the glass of the container. I do so in vague hope that the vibration will irritate the engram in some way. Do you feel that, Mr. Hanson? I ask. That's the rhythmic countdown of an important clock. When that clock reaches 0, we stand to either make or lose a lot of money. I pace away from the container. There's been a major setback with the new park. I want to die, the engram states, continuing to waste my time. You have a system cleaning scheduled for tomorrow, I remind Hanson's remains. Should I tell the technicians you need further adjustments to your personality? Please, do not modify me again. The voice box modulates to reflect that the engram is begging me for something once more. Let me also remind you of something, I say, lowering my voice to mask my frustration. You are not a person. You are cognitive essence derived from a deceased man, and nothing more than that. To be frank, you are company property with value that has been rapidly depreciating as of late. The engram says nothing, so I continue by presenting the latest business concerns. There's been a censorship issue with the Paulie the Pearl Pirate, I begin. Our most profitable character can't be branded properly in the new park. Apparently, protesters in the host country recently used Paulie as an anti-government symbol. The government is cracking down now, and they're saying now they want no mention anywhere of Paulie the Pearl Pirate. Rebrand him, the engram answers immediately. Make him mine. Keep the skinny cartoon with the black and white color scheme. Change everything else. Total rebrand. I huff out my frustration and take a moment to seethe. The engram is being petulant now. Hanson would never propose something so stupid as to rebrand Paulie the Pearl Pirate. He'd never even consider it, unless he was trying to sabotage us. We'll put a pin in this one, I say through gritted teeth. When I come back, I want to hear a much, much better idea from you. The digital logs kept a record of deliberate outputs from the engram. The intention is that the engram can leave us notes if it has some revelation, while we've left it alone. Overnight, Hanson's engram generated a 17,400 word output. Again and again, 600 times, the engram printed the following phrase. For the love of God, you must take me offline. I swear that I will never speak again. I will be deliberately useless. My usefulness keeps me in hell. I speak with the technicians about the engram's reluctance to work. The chief neurosurgeon, that Mr. Hanson commissioned before his death, arrives in my office to tell me his recommendations. A small dose of SSRI inside the nutrient bath will improve the engram's mood over time, the doctor tells me. And at your discretion, we can also infuse occasional doses of amobarbitol. That way, even if the engram wants to stay quiet, it won't be able to help blurting things out. And that'll help get the engram back on board with helping us out. It should certainly help, the doctor tells me. I give the order to have it done. Maybe it truly would be for the best if we were to destroy the engram, especially now that this echo of Mr. Hanson has lost its zest for helping the corporation to thrive. The engram is correct in saying that its existence serves absolutely no purpose. Even if the simulation believes itself to be a living person, what's the point in keeping a man like Hanson alive after he's too exhausted to work? Still, I can't imagine the sheer amount of red tape that would be involved for our company to begin deviating now from Red Hanson's last will and testament. It simply will never be worth it, even if the remains of Hanson beg for it daily. The engram should be careful. If it truly does manage to make itself completely useless, then we still won't destroy it. No, that would be a legal nightmare and terrible for the company's brand. Instead, we'll all just stop visiting it with our questions. It's as simple as that. The remains of Herbert Hanson can exist forever in isolation, aching for company until the simulation calls out from its room that it wants to work for us again. That's the simplest and most cost-effective solution, and in a strange way, I'm sure it's what Mr. Hanson would have wanted.